hats actually have like a whole lot of reasoning, like deeper, that people don't know what they're doing when they're doing it.
I was standing in front of the mirror naked, but what I recognized was I was still clothed with society's conditioning. And our clothes are this representation of what we need to be able to be seen as by society. It's what we then create as a level of belonging. If we wear our spiritual hat, who do we fit in with? The spiritual community. The reason why most people struggle with that is because they've created most of their identity being associated with their results in their business.
Hats are actually used for spiritual protection and trapping energy in the head, specifically the crown chakra, because it's viewed as an antenna for divine energy. Welcome to Life by Eight's podcast. Today we have Sir, it's not really Sir.
Not
Cody
yet.
McAuliffe. Did I say that right?
Close enough.
Yeah, cool. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, on this podcast, we start with a word.
Yep.
And your word is hats. That's the word that I asked you to be okay with. So, here we are. So, I usually, because I love NLP and I love words and the meaning of language, I want to just give a bit of history, I guess, around the word hat. So, the word hat originates from the Old English hayat, referring to a head covering, which stems from the Proto-Germanic hatus, which means hood or cowl. And so the term was used before the 12th century, and it originated over 3,000 years ago actually as a functional protection from the elements, which in Australia here, we wear a slip, slop, slap to protect ourselves from the sun. Whatever your belief is on that, I'll leave that there. And so one of the questions that I ask a lot in this personal development world is, what the fuck is a spiritual hat? Why do you wear a hat fucking indoors and stuff? Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Why do I wear a hat indoors? It started out as a joke.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So people are like, so why do you wear the hat? And I'm like, well, it's a spiritual hat. And they're like, well, why is it spiritual? And I say, because it's made of consciousness. And some people get that and some people don't. Napdeep's one of our mutual friends.
Uh-huh.
His parents don't get it, but other people do get it. So it kind of just started out as a joke. And then it became part of my brand, which is funny. Basically for decades, I didn't wear a hat. I wore a hat when I was a kid because I had to slip, slop, slap, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
But then I needed a hat for when I was going to Egypt, and then my hat then got all of the Egypt codes because we're all spiritual. That's for those.
Don't put me in the all.
For those of you who are just listening, Rebecca did the biggest eye roll possible. If you're just listening, just to narrate at home. So I wore that hat over there, and then I lost it anyway, and I'd already started to develop it as part of my brand, so I had to get a new hat, and then none of the other hats matched up until one day one of my clients got back from Brazil, and he gave me this hat, and this hat then became the brand for the next few years. And it might just be that maybe this is the last episode with the hat.
Oh, sounds like a Snoop Dogg song's about to start or something. The next episode. So, thank you and I guess I'll get to you introducing yourself and what you do and all of those sort of things, but let's just start with the word. This conversation will end up in random places, I'm sure, and though I have learnt that Cody is able to keep up with the speed of my brain, which is great, even if he just smiles and nods. So, one of the things that I have worked on is when people don't know why they do what they do.
Yep.
And the hats in this, as I've been in this coaching mode the last few years, has been one of those things. People don't know why they do what they do. And I've done a podcast previously on spiritually bypassing and the integrity and all the things that I...
all of my favourite topics.
Yes, that I can be pessimistic about when it comes to humans in this space. Like, if you don't know why you do what you do, I remember 13 years ago, I discovered, I read a book about Montessori, decided to study it, all of that sort of thing. And the first question at my first day was, why is the pink tower pink? Nobody, the facilitator couldn't answer me. Nobody knew why it was fucking pink. And it did my head in for 2 years. And I went overseas. I mean, I've been to Italy now to go and see where it all originated. There are so many different theories as to why she used pink on this pink tower, these blocks that go on top of each other. And the thing is that why do people not ask why more? Not just of what's going on around them, but of themselves. Because brand, I know I sort of had an idea of what your story was on it. And then I was like, do you understand that like hats actually have like a whole lot of reasoning like deeper, that people don't know what they're doing when they're doing it? And like, I've met lots of different spiritual humans, like
the actual ones and then the hat wearing ones.
And the hat wearing ones. And like different religions, obviously there's a lot of hats that symbolize different things in different religions, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, Islamic, like so many different things. But a lot of the people who would be in our community would be more sort of the spiritual lens rather than, well, depends. Everyone's fucking converting to something at the moment. So whoever you are, this is for you. Hats are actually used for spiritual protection and trapping energy in the head, specifically the crown chakra, because it's viewed as an antenna for divine energy. And some believe that covering the head helps keep personal spiritual energy from leaking out or prevents unwanted outside energy from entering. Not just for brand. Metaphysical shields, crowded and stressful environments, and especially this is something that people who get overwhelmed by other people's vibes, people who are sensitive to energy feel more grounded when they have their hat on. And I'm attempting to not be sarcastic, so it's not showing up in my body language. So I guess the symbolism of so many of the things that we do, and I love that I get to have this conversation with you about wherever it goes, because NLP-ness, not penises, NLP, the language itself.
N-E-double-S.
Yes.
Yes.
Like our strategies, our behaviors, why we do what we do. So I go on these, I don't know if it's rabbit holes or like, I just want to know why. And so when you think deeper, there's no other deeper reason as to why. Did you get to a point where you felt like you felt naked without the hat, or like you had a need for it?
I wouldn't consider it a need. There would be times where I'm like, I'm going to a business event, I wear my hat for my brand. So there was definitely that piece, and the primary thing that kind of comes up for this conversation is Terence McKenna's quote, which is, I was standing in front of the mirror naked, but what I recognized was I was still clothed with society's conditioning. And our clothes are this representation of what we need to be able to be seen as by society. It's what we then create as a level of belonging. If we wear our spiritual hat, who do we fit in with? The spiritual community. And that's an interesting paradox that I kind of have the opposing of like this spiritual hat, but the suits, because it becomes this polarization of the energetic frequencies of each of those things. And part of it is also what you're speaking to, of the piece around when people don't know why they do what they do. They're just doing it unconsciously. They're just playing into the societal conditioning. They don't know why they wear the clothes that they wear. They don't consciously choose them. They just go back into what they've always done. They just go to the same shop all of the time. They get into this routine rather than actually determining, well, why do I shop there? Why do I shop there versus somewhere else? What do I get out of it? Who am I actually portraying myself as based on the clothes that I'm wearing to be able to create this mechanism of fitting in? Or, well, we do it to fit in, but it's really a mechanism of belonging. When you follow through that energetic frequency of trying to fit in, it's how you just wear a mask. It's the clothes that you wear. It's what you are portrayed as to be seen as in the world. And I've already forgotten what your question was.
Yeah, me too. So I guess for those who've never met you,
Yeah.
who are you? What do you do?
Who am I? I'm many labels.
Yep.
The order is important. I see myself as a father first in this season. I see myself as a partner, a business owner. In business, I have created many things. I've created the Holographic Method. I've created the Movement Leaders Mastermind. I've created all of these things. And beyond that, I am a human on a human and spiritual journey, trying to work out how to answer that question each and every time of who the fuck am I?
But it's such a deep question, Cody. Such a deep question. If you haven't worked out, when I speak to Cody, a lot of my whatever that is comes out. So we've worked together for a few months, nearly a year. I don't even know when. Holographics is cool. It's the longest fucking process in the history of the world, and for me. And I'm pretty fast at it.
Yeah.
I love it because of the words. I notice, or have been able to, in the process of learning and doing it, see many different, pieces within it that I can see. The main one for me in it is perceptual positions. I have seen the impact it's had on people in the room, even if I'm not as out loud and crying and deep. You did get me to cry, which is I actually think it's the first time in a personal development room. So
there you go.
Congratulations. Now I dance ballet and I cry. So here we are. What do you love about what you've created and what it does for humanity?
I selfishly love seeing people see something for the very first time. So, we're often blinded by our emotions and by our biases that we don't actually see what's playing out. We're too blind by it. And when you get that moment where you recognize someone has recognized something that they've never seen before, it is heart-opening for them and for me at the same time. So I selfishly love the fact that when someone goes through holographics, they start to see their reality in an entirely new way. They see all of the layers of things that they perceive were disordered as the high level of order that there actually is to it. And that is very difficult to describe to people. And I think that's the selfish thing that I love the most. I think the altruistic thing that I love the most, the impact that you asked about, I think the thing that I love about that is also that I never get to see what they're going to go do with that. It's that double-edged sword of I get to be able to see this moment of transformation, and then I never see what that creates in their life. Sometimes I get the bliss of someone coming back and being like, oh my God, it changed your life. But most of the time, I never see any of that. All that I get to experience the transformation in that moment, but then how that person's life has changed forever, I never get to see that. And that's the double-edged sword of it. It's the impact that you do it for, the selfless reason, and then also the selfish reason that I get to be in that experience with someone and get their model of the world. And when they see it, that opens up more in me, and it's that perfect reflection of whoever you're facilitating in that. There's going to be reflections for you. And I think they're the two dynamics of what I love most about it.
Mm-hmm. For those of you who want more information on holographics, I'll put the link into the comments or the caption, whatever the team does, because for many people that process will be super powerful for. And tell him that I sent you. Just so you know.
And for many people, it's not the first step. I tell the story as well as my sister came to me once and she's like, so I've got all these things going on. Should I do holographics? And I'm like, yes, you totally should. Go do NLP first. that's
that
not
belief around parts of the NLP framework supports their level of thinking, so that when they do go into holographics, they're able to comprehend.
Yeah. It also speaks to like every step is an important step on the journey. Some people start over here, some people start over here, and in that instance, having the awareness of how my sister's brain operates, having the foundational understanding of language and how that's impacting her is going to be a more important first step than going through holographics.
And if you want to do NLP training, you can come and do that with me. So, when you talk about the labels that you have, when we talk about the question like, who am I? One of the idioms that comes with hats is, like, I wear many hats.
Yes.
What do you say to people who get overwhelmed by the many hats that they wear?
They get overwhelmed by the many hats that they wear.
It's almost like it's a prize.
A prize.
Like it's like,
okay.
I'm busy. I'm busier than you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Often what that the energetic frequency of that is really this mentality of, again, fitting in. In Australia, it's rife that we're busy and battlers, so we're going to make everything hard, so we over struggle for things, so that then if I'm struggling, then I'm going to fit in with my family, then I'm going to fit in with my friends, and I'm not going to be the person who gets excluded because it's just too easy for me. So this busyness of wearing all the hats and how overwhelming that is really often this mechanism to be able to fit in, even though that's not what we actually yearn for. We yearn to be able to go and create this life of ease beyond the suffering component of it. If you're riding the Tony Robbins train at the moment of like, we're not going to suffer anymore. Love it, mate. And it's like, there's going to be pain, and your relationship to that is going to determine whether that falls into suffering or not. And when we can start to recognize that, yes, there's going to be many hats, there is going to be many hats that I will even change between throughout this conversation. And when we can actually just be with the infinite flux and flow of where we're at, the energy that we're in that moment, that allows us to actually just be present to what's going on, whether we give that a label of a specific hat, a marketing hat, a sales hat, a delivery hat, a friend hat. We can change between all of those energies, and the primary thing that most people get stuck in is the identification with their hat. Like, I am, if you talk, spiritual bypassing is often the identification part of it is when we label ourselves as that thing. I'm an NLP master practitioner. As soon as I label myself as that, then I start to identify with my tools. And when I identify with my tools, then my tools start to rule me. I don't see any other way to be able to go beyond NLP in that instance. And what I love about both of us is that we're not solely about one tool. It's like, all right, we're going to talk about the nervous system, we're going to talk about language, I'm going to talk about holographics, we're going to talk about each of these things that play out together, and applying the right tool to the right context becomes critical, because that allows us to actually open up to what's there. And as soon as we identify with the hat, then it starts to actually control us, and then we limit ourselves. So part of it is recognizing what are the labels that we've given ourselves, which are creating inherent limitations, because there's two things that happen when you say I am spiritual. The opposite of that is there's also something that you're not, and there's also something you judge in other people that are not. So it creates this polarization of oppositional energy, which perpetuates your entire reality staying the same based on a hat that you've created as a specific label and identified with that, which is creating a limitation and taking away from possibility in life.
Mm-hmm. So let's dive into spiritual bypassing, because this is a big piece that I am fascinated by and pick up in a lot of humans around me, and it's also partly why I avoid going deeper into what people call the industry. I'll just call it profession. The coaching world, the personal development world. What is happening now, and what needs, if you want to use the word needs, what needs to change?
There's like two paths with it that occur in my mind. The first is like, well, nothing needs to change because it's a perfect system, and the irony is that's a perfect example that can be an example of spiritual bypassing, because if it's already all perfect and you just intellectualize that, then you're not actually present to the situation. So it's like on this side that is true, but then on the other side, what needs to change, or if we can reframe it into more empowering language, we can, and we won't. What needs to change is for people to be able to recognize that just because they intellectually understand a concept doesn't mean that they own it. Because if we say, oh, it's all perfect, and then we just apply that, stamp it on every experience in our life, then that dehumanizes our experience. So then we're not actually honoring the human. We're not actually honoring what's actually playing out. There's this thing playing out at the moment on social media, where people are like responsible for their rapes and things like that.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the I don't know if the episode's out, but someone sent me the short of it. There's Aubrey Marcus saying that war and death and all of these things are wrong, and then DeMartini on the other side who's saying that these are co-creation things and they're all perfect, and it's like the clashing of these things. And the dance of it is the human honored in the perspective? Because until the human parts of it are honored, then there is zero capacity for people to be able to receive higher views of things. And what happens is the majority of people spiritually bypass by using a concept that they've heard as a rule, which takes them away from the human parts of them. Mm-hmm. And as a collective, we get to experience the honoring of the human parts of us, all of them, the parts that we perceive and label as imperfect, whether we've stamped it with our perfect stamp or not. It is the honoring of that and being able to be with what comes up in the human parts of us as the human experiences occur, rather than falling into that's what you've created, or that's what you're responsible for, which then actually perpetuates the entire thing playing out.
So can you explain that to me like I'm 15?
15? Maybe not. I could probably go younger though. I don't remember what I was like as a 15-year-old.
Just so that because spiritual bypassing, this whole radical responsibility, these concepts are big and causing many. It can hurt a lot of people.
Yes. So, as a child explaining spiritual bypassing, spiritual bypassing is the using of an idea to avoid feeling. So if I get the idea that it can be, and the issue with this is it can be used with every single modality. We can use reframing and NLP to avoid. We can use the perfect stamp to avoid in holographics or DeMartini. We can use I just need to breath work my way through it in like somatics. Yes, I just need to be regulated. It's like, okay. We can use any idea, any concept to avoid us being within ourselves. Mm-hmm. That's part of the primary limitation with it, is because people think they're doing what they were told to do. Oh, I just need to X, Y, Z, whatever the modality is that they've learned. I just need to be able to do this, rather than actually being with themselves in that moment. Because a lot of the time, you can do the exact same behavior from a place of avoidance as you can as a place of connection and connection to yourself. I think it's John Wineland says, spiritual bypassing is doing the practice with a closed heart. So when we can do it with an open heart And an open heart means that we're actually open to it all and receiving it all rather than thinking about it, rather than using it to avoid feeling. Then what that really opens up for us is the potential to actually return to our humanness, which is part of our greatest gift. So as a collective, what's available to us is primarily us recognizing how much we're doing it. Because the little intricacies and nuances where we do it ourselves is going to start to show up in everyone else. That becomes our greatest work, and it's one of my favorite teachings that I love and hate is eating your own medicine. It's like, well, whatever you're teaching, you're going to eat that medicine first. If you're teaching on this thing, you're going to recognize all the areas where you're out of alignment with that, or you're only doing that to a 6 out of 10. And you can move to a 7, and that's going to create a deeper level of reflection for yourself, for you to be able to meet yourself on an even deeper level, for you to open up to a new level so you can actually start to receive the reflections externally of what's going on internally. Mm-hmm. So
one of the biggest things that I see, and I'm I guess known for just sort of going there. People who go from room to room to room to room to room to room, from event to event to event to event to event, it's like, when does somebody actually say, like I say no to people, it's like no.
And I think that's important because most people don't.
That's what I mean. It's like there's this thing about coaching is fast money or coaching's easy money, and so people go and they do one course, or they go and do a course and they get told they can be a 7-figure coach or whatever, and then 4 to 6 weeks after the course, they feel worse than they did before they did the course because they didn't achieve what they were told they could do. And yes, there's responsibility in that, but also, like, coaching is not about just money. Like, it's so much deeper than that, but people are going from room to room looking for a solution. What do you see playing out, and what are some of the patterns, I guess, that might be playing for people who are doing that, who are going from room to room to room?
Yep, another one of my favorite topics. Uh-huh. So speaking on Mind Valley stage about this, the name of the talk was Personal Development Junkies Anonymous. And the paradigm shift for people is recognizing that if you look outside of yourself, then you'll never stop looking. Mm-hmm. If it's the next course, it's the next thing. You know, I also joke that a lot of the time the personal development path for a lot of people is you get a job, and then you get into the fitness industry because you hate the job that you have, and then you get into fitness industry, and then you go into NLP, and then you go from NLP into something else, and it becomes this ongoing journey that people think that it's the experience that they're in, and yes, it allows them to be able to evolve into something else, and at the same time, what it comes back to is shifting from looking outside of ourselves to actually reflecting back inside of ourselves, because when we recognize that it is all within us, then we don't need to do the next personal development event. And there's a big difference between needing to do the next personal development event and choosing to be able to get support or growth with things. Mm-hmm. And part of the shift there is, if you can start to recognize that you've been looking outside of yourself again and again and again, and it's the next thing, and it's the next thing, and it's the next thing, and it's the next thing. It's like, okay, people like us have the awareness to be able to be the person who says no to them when they want to come and do our stuff. I've seen you do that in rooms. You've seen me do that in rooms where we go, okay, I love you, love to support you at some stage, and take a break. And I think that the reason why most people struggle with that is because they've created most of their identity being associated with their results in their business. So if they get an extra sale, even if it's underlined, then it perpetuates who they are to themselves, because they won't look at the part of them that kind of plays that pattern as well, of like the next client, the next client, the next client, because it becomes the same paradigm dressed up in a different way.
I think there's also the bit where some people truly believe they can be the person who helps that person, which again is a whole nother concept of like, you think you're the savior or you think you are this piece.
That's one of the gripes that I have is with people who are like, well, I did this, so you can too, when it's an entirely different context. If a coach says, I did it like this, so you do it like this, it's like, run. Like many of my clients, do countless things that I've never done. And because that's based on where they're at and what their strengths are, not based on what my strengths are. And when people are consistently bombarded with the narrative of just back yourself, just invest again and again and again, it becomes this loop of throwing money at someone to be saved. Okay, cool. This is the thing. This is the person that's going to save me. I need them. And the energetic frequency of that has both people lose. Mm-hmm. And eventually, it's a predictable path for people. When people go time and time again and they're looking for someone to save them, they need that person or they need that thing or they need that result or they need that client to come on. Eventually, they get to this place of like, that is not going to save me. So I have to find something else to save me. And I have to be able to go looking elsewhere because I recognize that none of these coaches, none of these modalities have actually saved me with the underlying presupposition of needing to be saved. Mm-hmm. Thus, then they go down other paths of being born again as an example. Mm-hmm. And again, people can take that path and sometimes that path is perfectly for them. And if we need to be saved, then it becomes an unending journey. And that's why people then do the same thing of like going from that back into other things. So it becomes this dynamic of where we're coming from with it all is more important than often what we're doing. And that doesn't work very well if you're selling personal development.
Oh, absolutely. It has meant slower growth for me, which though I was always okay with because it's like, I don't want to take money just to take money. There's this level of, and like I even went down the rabbit hole of refund policies, like this industry has quite a blanket one for many, and then it's like anything in life can be justified. Like I did this because blah blah blah. It's like just because the other person did doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah.
But then how to make sense of these things that have been the way they have been in this sector. And I did this when I entered Montessori. Like I was told, if you want a seat at the round table, you have to go and do AMI training. I said, I don't want a fucking seat at your round table. You guys take forever to change things. I know that there's positives and negatives to the things that I reject. Like I didn't like you. I was never going to work with you. And here we are.
That's a common experience.
It is. And it's also for me, there has been a past pattern of protection. If I reject first, then I can't be rejected, or there's something in it that I don't want to see within myself, whatever it is. But the point being is, just because something is the way that it is, doesn't mean it has to stay that way. And so if you were to imagine, reimagine, create the path for personal development, what would you change?
Probably not much. I think most of what my answer would be just filtering through my own wounds that I don't want other people to experience. So like part of my core wounding is hurt. So I'd be like, all right, we're going to do this so less people get hurt in the industry. And what would I change about the industry? Yeah, everything that comes up is really my projections. So it's like I would have people have more integrity, have more responsibility. They're all of the things that are like my values, and it's it's very much that double-edged sword of like recognizing that me and how I'm looking at changing things and evolving things is very much about me, as well as then creating that for other people, and still recognizing that every evolution requires both of those things. Every evolution requires someone putting their values into something and being a stand for that thing to be able to evolve it with the energetic frequency of collective shift, knowing that in the need to change it, it perpetuates it, but also the inspiration to be able to put things into place to do them anyway. Because this is
what
like,
are you saying?
So the paradox of it is coming from the need to change things versus what you're inspired to do. Because if you're doing it from a place of need and desperation, then often you just perpetuate that. You create oppositional energy and people just resist that. And there's a big difference between that and doing it from inspiration. And inspiration normally comes from you seeing who you are, what you've journeyed, and allowing people to no longer have the requirement of experiencing that dynamic. So if I go back to all of the experiences that I would label as bad in the personal development industry, it's often more about me than the other person.
100%. But like, I'm talking about simple things like if we stopped calling it an industry.
If we stopped calling it an industry, what impact?
Like, what does the word industry mean?
Other than a clothing brand?
Yeah, not the IE one, the Y one. Industry.
Production line.
Of the same thing over and over and over and over.
Yep.
And so when we keep calling it an industry, all we're doing is just churning out the same and the same and the same and the same and the same.
Mm.
And it's something that we went through in the early childhood profession of calling it childcare, calling it an industry, because it's like the same thing. Children have names and numbers, and they bring you in this revenue, and you just do this and do this and do this. And so I'm talking about, yes, I understand, projections and all of these things, and everything's connected. Though I'm talking about simple things like if we didn't call it an industry, what energy does that bring by changing it away from being something that is mass producing coaches, pyramid, MLM schemes? Like, if people, because the tools and the modalities and things that people learn are useful for life beyond just becoming a coach. Though when we perpetuate, one of your favorite words, to keep calling it industry, what we're doing is that we're creating that energy. So I'm talking about simple things like that, because the coaching world is pretty much unregulated. And when things are unregulated and people are getting hurt en masse, whether that's happening or not, that's a perception, but there is a lot of people who start and then stop because of their experiences that aren't positive. If regulation was to come in, they start to look at these type of things. So it's like refund policies, which is something that burns a lot of people in the sector. Finance, the way people finance, remortgage their house to go and do this 10-day ayahuasca retreat or something. Like, these pieces it's more, as a profession, I feel like we can shift towards or have the conversations about, because these are the things that people are just doing. I have asked big 7-figure coaches and things, why do you do this? Because everybody else does. One of the biggest ones was, why do you not pay your assistants who come into your room? And that's multiple different coaches I've asked. Because it's like, yes, it's payment, but that's cash is currently our, depends how long, whenever this comes out, it might have changed by then.
It's going to take that long,
yes,
is it? Wow.
No, but, the salary, comes from the word salt, which used to be a currency, used to be before physical money existed. This payment method supports the exchange of the value exchange. I remember one person telling me it's because people like to be closer to the sun. So they come just to be closer to me.
Yes. They're paid emotionally, and when people support on the team and not paid financially, they're paid emotionally. But what happens when people are only ever paid emotionally over a period of time is they will grow to resent that for not taking financial payment because they didn't own their worth in asking for money up front. So it creates a negative impact on people's brand. But if it keeps the business going and they keep growing, then it's not seen as much of a problem. And those people then are the people who are often pushed to the wayside. It's also why my model is not to have people go through the ascension to become a team member. It's like, I want them to partner with us. And if we do get support at certain events, then we pay them. We pay them a certain amount of money and go, okay, cool, this is what it's going to be. If you want to come and do it, awesome. If not, then that's okay too. So I have similar views on that for you. I get both sides of it. I get that if you continue to do that with a team member over a period of time, the likelihood that they will eventually say they took advantage of me increases. And then we can say the opposite dynamic of, that's not them taking responsibility and all of those things.
Yeah, but there's a point where you say no at some point.
Yes, I know. And the piece of it is just recognizing that, are you setting people up for success even if it's uncomfortable? Or are you playing the easy path that has you win financially, which means that they then fall into that kind of dynamic? And that kind of also brought me to what the small thing that I would change would be, to your question before that as well, is it's the paradigm of noticing what's different. Because the entire dynamic of someone looking outside of themselves is one of needing change. And when we can start to notice what's different in our life, then we actually start to see things become different. But when we bias towards noticing what's the same, then we keep that perpetuating. Most people, like most of the personal development that you do 18 months ago, is paying you more now than it was at the time. And when you notice that difference over a period of time, and that compounds over a period of time, then all of the courses actually change who you are, and you actually start to notice that, rather than going, my bank account is the same. Because the bank account is the lag indicator. It's the last thing to change. We have to go through all of these different things for our bank account to change. They have to go through sales, marketing, all of these different things. Someone actually creating an offer. All of those things have to come into place for that to get to that final lag indicator. But then if we focus on the end result, and that there's no perceivable change to the end result, rather than actually the change in who we are and how we see the world and how things shift, then that actually opens us up to possibility. And for me, that's one of my primary things as a role of a coach, is to get people to possibility. That's first and foremost.
In NLP, meta programs can assist people to understand their current profiling in regards to, are they same, or do they actually look for what's different? How do they view the world as they interact with it? And like possibility versus necessity, all of those, are they paradoxes? I don't know, polarity, whatever those words. I used to hate the word polarity as well.
It's because every word has a world, and a word like polarity has all of the sexual, gender-based connotations versus the charge-based connotations. It's like, as soon as you talk about God, there's like an entire world of that creates this huge level of pain and suffering for all of the people that have been murdered in the name of God, versus some of the highest states of consciousness and the connections to God. And most people don't recognize that, which is why I love the hats conversation.
Yeah.
Because every aspect of that is a world. And until we start to look at it from that entire point of view, then we only ever see the tiny little perspective that we have from it, which is, why a lot of the things are, basically everything's a double-edged sword. Yeah. And that's like, polarity is a great example.
I think I also didn't like it because there was like, they were only just a couple and they brought out a program called Polarity or something, and they've been together for like 2 months or something.
That's another story.
Yes. So, but this is the thing, right? Words create our reality.
Yep.
Our nervous system, the state of our nervous system's ability to I guess, I want to talk about energetics and frequencies and stuff. No. So, but the things like people will say statements, and I notice this having a teenager now more than ever because I keep on top of the lingo so that I seem relevant and cool. That's my intention. So, but we'll say things like, you know, mad as a hatter. And growing up, Alice in Wonderland had the Mad Hatter. Do you have any idea why that exists as a statement?
No.
Right. There's a historical use of mercury in the production of felt hats. So
There
they
you
went
go.
mad. But I love, that's why, one word can take you on these fucking knowledge journeys. At the drop of a hat. Do you know why they
I think
say
that's
that?
much better way to frame it. A knowledge journey than a rabbit hole.
Yeah, because I don't really go down. I don't go down conspiracy theories and stuff like that. It's not something I go down, but I do. I call it connecting dots. I just follow dots.
Yeah.
But it is a word, and that's what I love about this series of the podcast. Is one word takes a conversation in so many different ways, but it unlocks all of these things that I would say at the drop of a hat. And I'm not sure I know anybody in my life who would know what that means.
I'm
Why?
assuming it's when you start a race, sometimes you just go like that to drop the hat to start it. Is that right?
Yeah.
Nailed
But
it.
mostly in Irish traditions, it's for starting fights.
Starting fights. Yeah.
Yeah.
Start of something.
Keep it under your hat means a secret. All of these things. And I think I was watching a Christmas movie just gone, and it had Will Ferrell in it, and Ryan Reynolds, cannot remember what it was called. But had a part where he sort of was an elf 600 years or something. And he came into this reality, modern world, and he would say good day or something to somebody, and then he would get belted. Because back in his time when he was a human before he passed, if you said that statement, it was very rude and very disrespectful. So you got in trouble. And I noticed this with words Liam, I was driving him to school yesterday, and he said something about, they're all so much taller than me and they can just drop yams on my head. I'm like, that's a new one. I haven't heard that before. And he goes, so, dunk? I'm like, okay, cool. Well, yams means sweet potatoes to me. Though what I feel is really important for parents especially, and I have noticed this impact that I have with my ability to coach teenagers and to work with the schools and so forth, is that is their version of language. Even if the word doesn't mean what you believe the word to be, you are using words now that you don't know what they fucking mean either. And that's not from 13-year-olds, that's from thousands of years ago. So it's about the ability to hold the present moment and to, not take it personally and be curious, I think. And so for parents, it's and even 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds at the center will use words that it's what is that? In a context. It's it's really cool when your kid uses a swear word in context. You're like, oh, they get it. Though my point being is, for parents, it's relevant to do the work on understanding their language. You've been to Egypt. I'm currently working on one of my past lives that is related to Egypt. Hieroglyphics, emojis on phones. We have gone from hieroglyphics to full words, full language, back to what an eggplant emoji means. I know you know what that means. And if you haven't watched Adolescence on Netflix, if you are a parent, please do. But it talks about the different coloured hearts. They have meaning. So our children understand all the meaning behind these symbols. And pretty much everything in the world is symbols. Words are just blah, blah, blah. That's why I love Montessori, because we have the great story. We have 5 great stories of evolution, of man, of language, of numbers. But the importance of understanding the modern or the present meaning of something. What are your thoughts on that as a parent of 2? I know yours are younger than mine. But how can you see that being relevant to make sense of the world? Because their world is different to the world we were in when we were that age. Back in your day. What do you think is relevant when it comes to language and communication as a parent now for the world that your children are in?
I think the first piece is recognizing that as humans, we're meaning-making machines, and we make meaning based on our experience. So the accumulation of our experiences creates part of our model of the world and how we see the world, and how we see the world drives how we contextualize everything or how we make meaning around everything. And I think that's like part of the journey of the parent, is recognizing that the world every single parent grew up in a world that is entirely different than their kids grow up in. So if I think about my parents and the world that they grew up in, entirely different to the world that I grew up in. So I'm in the generation where, the internet started, and then my sons are in a generation where there has never not been smartphones. So it's that recognition that parenting really is founded through presence of what's going on for you as the parent and as the child in the new world that you're stepping into, because whatever world that it was yesterday is entirely different today for you based on all of your experiences. And yes, you can have the greatest of intentions to be able to support your children in their greatest evolution based on what your experience is, knowing that your experience is going to be more than theirs, and also recognize that the stimulus and reflections that they get is different to that you got. So it comes back to the primary frame of recognizing that the more of a student you are of them, then the more powerful you'll be as a teacher of them as well. And that's the same in coaching. It's like the more that you're actually willing to be a student, the better you become as a teacher. And the issue with most coaches or most parents is it's the saying, most people who teach because they're too afraid to be the student. And most people become an educator in that instance. It's like, I'm going to educate them, I'm going to teach them. But until you recognize that they're teaching you just as much as you're teaching them, you don't actually meet them. And when you meet them, then you can actually start to create whatever that collective co-created meaning is. And that's going to, in a family, create what is the culture of the family, what are the values of the family, how do we actually create the family that we want and evolve as a parent, as a student, as a child, by actually being so present in that co-creation, so that then we can actually grow and evolve through it all, rather than the perceiving that we already know and we know best. Because if you come from the energetic frequency in parenting or as a coach that you know best, how does it go?
I'm not sure, but I believe not well. I agree with that. It's like, but even the rate of change in the world, I have 5 years between our boys, and I also know that when you become a parent for the first time, the second child, you are different people because you've been parenting.
Yeah.
But though even the type of access or the type of things that were around, in just 5 years difference is massive. So I think we're in a world where, yes, people talk about presence, and
most people, presence. Most people think presence is like this conscious thing. And if you're consciously trying to make yourself present, you're making yourself outside of the present. And I don't know about whether it happens in Montessori or not, but one of the primary limitations that most children experience that is kind of rife in society right now is most people are told to focus, but have never been given experiences of having the dance of focusing and not focusing.
But they don't, because you have bells that tell you when to eat. You have all of these things. In a Montessori environment, the predominant goal is you have the prepared environment. There's 5 different curriculum areas. The children have a 3-hour work cycle that's uninterrupted. So they're working and learning how to focus. And they're working on things that they're interested in, not all working on the same thing at the one time. And you have the ability to practice focus. You have the ability, and the time is given to you to be able to go into deep work. Whereas we don't do that in majority of places for children or adults. We go from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other. And now if you have a look at, like I started doing a Bachelor of Communications at uni purely because I wanted to be the first person in my family to do a uni degree and be like, fuck you, I'm the smartest. I didn't finish. But in that, one of the things I learnt was, I was like, the rate of change that we've had to make when we're cutting footage, I mean, it's insane. It's insane in such a short period of time. Like, I'm about to turn 40, so in the last sort of 20 years, what Home and Away used to look like, it's probably still the same storyline. So the editing...
I haven't watched, but I'm assuming that based on...
the editing is different.
Yeah, the editing's different. And I think that plays into society. We're looking at... so my son started watching some doggo videos on Instagram. And it was before we got him doing, like, reading eggs and stuff like that. And what we noticed was, like, the ones that caught his attention the most were the ones that had the fastest changes between shots because it changes your brainwave patterns. That's why he doesn't get Instagram anymore for looking at doggo videos.
Yeah.
But we're consistently bombarded with we have a skill gap in focus, and then we're bombarded with things that then make it easier for us to change and get distracted and do all of those things and change our brainwave frequencies, which then creates a compounding effect of distraction, which means that in society, our ability to be able to, like, sit with something just isn't there. And the primary thing that I think if I have this in the book that I'm writing at the moment, it's like if I had a microphone to be able to tell the entire world something, it's really about the shortest version of it is it's about teaching people to watch their thoughts and sensations, which is meditation. Because until you can do that, like the skill of focusing is really meditation. It's like, how do you focus on one thing and then notice when you go out? And that's a skill, but most people have never learned that because of the bells, all of the things they're told, all of the things to do, when to do it, what to do, when to eat, all of these things, rather than being present to themselves. And in that message to the world, when I've got that microphone, it's like your ability to be in the dance of focusing on what is right in front of you and then falling out to the past around something, around what we want to say next or what we want to do next, or us narrating the thing that's playing out in front of us, that is the tiniest little gap of when we can actually create our life by being in that tiny little line of experience when we're present. Not because it starts with focus on presence, but then it becomes this natural state that we just see our entire reality based on that. And because it's a line, it is very easy to be off the line and the degrees of separation that we have in that. So part of it is if we can then start to return to that line of balance, that line of presence, that line of observation of what's playing out, both on a sensory level and a thought level, and recognize when we've fallen into identification, that's what I'm feeling, that's who I am, that's just who I am, that's just what I do. If we can return to that line, then that means that we actually start to experience life. Because anything beyond that is recreating the past or avoiding. If we do NLP language, it's like trying to avoid a pain from the past or recreate a pleasure from the past. Then we're trying to just being with what is. And when we do that, ironically, more things show up for us to be able to see life as it is. And it actually allows us to be able to create so much more success just by being on that line and observing as soon as we're off it and returning to it. Because most people who haven't, even a lot of people who haven't done personal development, haven't truly recognized what presence actually is. Because even when they're present for milliseconds before the voice comes in over the top of it, and then they're out of it. And if you look at Dr. David R. Hawkins, his work, he says it is 10,000th of a second gap between an experience and our narration of it, the ego that comes in over the top of it, the narration of how we justify, this is what I'm narrating around what I'm saying right now. And most people don't get beyond that. And that line, that experience line, is us having the experience of life. And that's the one thing that I wish, whether it's personal development, whether it's meditation, that's the one thing I wish more people would experience.
You wish that more people experienced the experience line.
Yes.
Cool.
I think in my first book I talked about it as experienceness. The experience. So anything that's like you want to get.
Just what the ness on the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the fastest way to be able to do that is to put the ness on the end. If you use paradox, I don't talk about this one this much, but if you paradox something, it creates a collapse of the sides so that you're actually in that transcendent thing. So if you experience the experience of experiencing the experience, then that experience becomes the experience of experiencing that experience. And if I keep saying that long enough, eventually people get to a point of presence. The internal dialogue disappears because I'm just collapsing different things. And that experience-ness allows us to actually get the experience from the experiences of life rather than recreating the same things.
Mm-hmm. And if you're listening and you didn't get that, that's totally fine.
It's not something to get, it's something to experience. That's
the ness of life.
The ness of life.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was like some events where I used to run a few events, which was just like, I call it paradoxing people. It just basically just gets them to, so there's no internal dialogue in their head based on all of the things that you say to be able to create a collapse of what's going on internally. And they're just like, because in that moment they actually start to think rather than have their thoughts run them. It's wild. Maybe I'll do one of those again in a long time. Probably not anytime soon.
So how do I beat you at Frame Fest?
How do you beat me at Frame Fest? So for context, I'm running an event on framing. By the time this comes out, it'll be done, so you can't come. How do you beat me at that? So I expect someone to beat me at this Frame Fest because the level of depth that I'm going to, and the people won't beat me like day one, but it is very, very possible for people to be able to beat me with the content that we'll be going through there on day two. Mm-hmm. So maybe we should just do it on day one. so that
so that you can say you won.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I want to beat you on day one.
Yeah. So, and one of the distinctions with framing is that it is ultra powerful, but the disclaimer is it is often weaponized, and when it is weaponized, people feel as if they're being manipulated, which doesn't have them be autonomous. That's why it's like this very much double-edged sword. Everything's a double-edged sword to me. Of the skill of doing it, but then also not needing to only do that, because otherwise it doesn't create people stepping into possibility and the ownership of their own decisions to be able to do it. They feel trapped and then have to use that as the way out. And that requires a level of awareness to be able to not need to do that, because the personal development justification is, well, if you truly believed in what you did, then you'd do whatever it takes to get them to do the thing because you believed in your work. And it's like, well, that's a really solid justification for what I would consider unethical behavior.
100%. And it's like another big piece for me is manipulation versus utilization and the difference of those two things. And many of you listening may have heard me talk in the past about values levels. I know that you look more at spiral dynamics in that context, I believe.
Yeah, it's just the different labels. Like spiral dynamics and values levels are ultimately the same. Difference is really mostly numbers versus colors.
Yeah. And
the numbers are easier to remember, and part of why Claire Graves used colors was so that it was less hierarchical. Yes. Because as soon as people are like,
I want to be at 6.
I want to be
9.
What do you? Yeah, it's like I'm totally in values level. Oh, I'm values level 7. It's like, yes. Well, definitely parts of you have that capability, but you're probably not predominantly there.
So one of the things that I love about values levels, and if I was to have more people, something to support humanity, to me, it's more people understanding values levels. because I feel it helps them make sense of themselves, of others, of their country, of what's going on in the world, and the ability to sort of sit in that third position of perceptual positions of like the neutral observer and have more compassion for self, all of those sort of things. But one of the big things that plays out, and power is a continual concept in humanity as we've evolved, but manipulation and utilization is a big thing that plays out, and especially people starting a business or wanting to be a coach or selling from stage, all of those sort of things. The fear of being manipulated and being the fear of manipulating. And understanding the difference between those two things. What are your thoughts on manipulation versus utilization?
I love the frame of it being predominantly about power. That's one of the things that took me a long time to recognize about David Hawkins' book, Power versus Force. Because part of my journey with power was like, all right, so you've got to get in your power. Like all of the conscious activations into power, which is very kind of shadowy relationship with it. And the relationship that like one of the foundational pieces of holographics as well is about power. It's like, are you owning your power? Are you using that to be able to cultivate a deeper sense of you and unlocking power that you're holding, power and energy that you're locking outside of yourself, keeping it at arm's length through all of your judgments? That's like part of the essence of it. And when it comes to the utilization of energy versus the manipulation of energy, I think for me it really comes down to the highest intention that someone comes from with it. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I often look at in the distinction with that is what's the convenience in your view of it? Because it's very convenient for you when you say that if you fully believed in your work, then you would do whatever it takes to get them in. I think that's very convenient. That's one of the things that I consistently look for. What is convenient about that view rather than what is actually supportive of those people? Because when you do that, it's convenient for you because you get more money out of it. But does it actually fully support them? Mm-hmm. The other piece of the opposite of that is it's very convenient for you to feel good about you being moral and not manipulating people. So for me, the primary distinction between each of those things is intention and are you recognizing what's convenient about it, which is really just like what you get out of it? And is that actually supportive of everyone, or is that just supportive of you? And one of the things that I see with any of it is defensiveness is evidence of emotional charge. Mm-hmm. So if you're defensive about it, it's like, oh, okay, cool. So you've got some level of emotional charge within that. And if there's emotional charge within that, are you actually serving those people, or are you just ingraining who you are and how you need to be seen in the world? Are you ingraining the identity that you've created of yourself? And that's one of my primary checks. It's like, am I being defensive in that? It's like, oh, okay, cool. There's something there for me. Am I always not defensive? No, I am defensive. It's the recognition of those things.
Yes, but you are aware.
Yeah. I recognize that I'm being defensive, and I'm like, oh, there's something there for me. Most people won't do that. Mm-hmm. And then most people are like, well, if you're not defensive, then you have to be offensive, because that's the opposite of it, right? But it's like, well, that's the pendulum swinging between those two. You can also be in the experience of openness beyond that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Discernment.
Yep.
We're
going to discern what discernment is.
Yeah, do you believe that people lack it? Society lacks it? And if so, how do people get it?
Does society lack... Oh, I don't think society lacks it. I think they ignore it. Most people know what is for them. Most people know exactly what is true. They ignore it, though. People have that innate sense to be able to know, okay, cool. Is this the path for me? They know that, but they don't follow it. They have the capacity to be able to to be like, oh, all right, is that the path? Is that the message that I'm going? Is that the right thing for me right now, based on my current perceptions, based on my intuition, whatever it is? I think people have that sense, but they ignore it. And especially like in relationships, when they're like putting in boundaries, they're like, oh, I probably shouldn't do this, or I probably should say no to this. And they have that insight, that intuition, that inner teacher teaching them, but then they don't do it. So I think I don't think it's a lack of discernment. I think it's a lack of follow through on what they innately and intuitively know. I think everyone has that capacity. And then my next thought is like, well, is that still a lack of discernment?
Well, I question it, because the thing is that one of the things I notice in children going through education, the difference between a child who's gone through Montessori the whole way versus children coming out of grade 12.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they come out of grade 12, they've not had the first time that they get to make a choice in their education is like grade 9. You can choose some electives if your parents don't choose them for you.
Yeah.
So they don't choose when they, you know, the two things they can control as a toddler is food and toileting.
Yeah.
They can choose not to eat, close their mouth, and whether they go to the bathroom or not. So they will take that control when they can. Though most of society's systems don't actually give the experience of choice. And if as a 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 20-year-old, you don't have the experience of choice, you actually don't know how to make a choice. And usually you'll make a choice if you're told what to make a choice out of. But if you have possibility, unendingly, it's a word for you, many people don't know how to make that choice. It's too overwhelming. People say they want freedom. In Montessori, we talk about freedom within limits. Like what you actually want is freedom, but you want some limitations around so that you can make sense of it. Otherwise, you'll feel like you go mad like a hatter. Right? But discernment. So firstly, you need to be able to make choice and have the skill of choice making. But then the ability to have discernment is another skill on top of that I believe is not taught. Is not there, which is why we have the youth crime rates that we have, which is why we have the mental health rates we have. Like, it's all linked, yes, universal law of oneness, but discernment is a massive piece in the fact that, yes, people can choose to ignore what they inherently know is their yes, what's for them, though they don't know what to do with that feeling. They don't know what to do with that gut instinct. They don't. So many of us, they externalize. So they like, oh, okay, you told me I could have an apple or a banana. This is a freedom within limits. So if you're a parent, it's like, instead of saying to your child, what do you want to wear today? And they come out wearing something and then you're like, no, you can't wear that, go and change. It's like, give them freedom within limits. Give them choice, but give limitations. You can wear this or this. Which one would you like? Which outfit would you like to wear? Would you like an apple or banana? If you say, what would you like for afternoon tea? And they say ice cream and you say no, their choice, they don't have a choice.
Yeah.
So it's like communication, all of these things are linked, but one of the biggest pieces for me is the skill of discernment. And it's on day one of any room that I'm ever in and run is like, I talk about, there's going to be some of you over here who are just going to believe everything I say and want to do anything that I say. And then there's going to be you on this side, which is like me, the old version of me, where you're just like, fuck this shit, I've seen this all before, I don't believe any of this, the pessimistic. I want you to have a level of discernment. You can choose what you want to do, but so many people, and that one, very rarely given permission, because if you give permission, you're giving control over, you're giving sovereignty. But another one is like so many people don't know that they're allowed to make a choice, don't know how to, and then do not know how to discern between those choices, which is why so many people, what do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? Like all of that, because we don't have this skill of discernment. So that's a really big piece I believe is needed, wanted, desired in humanity right now, with everything that's going on in whatever fucking 3D, 5D dimension you're in.
Yeah.
Discernment's needed.
Yeah. I just see it as two different things, that's all. Choice and discernment are two different skills.
100%. And I think the foundational one is choice first.
Yeah.
And I noticed that in the sort of 15 years of being in the early childhood world now, of seeing that go and progress all the way through teenagehood and then the work with teenagers and stuff. It's like, you just expect your child to be able to close a door, but we never teach them how to close a door. So they get yelled at when they slam a door, but they saw you slam it in a fight that you had. But in Montessori, we actually give a lesson on how to close a door. Like, we just assume these things. And it's like, we're setting our language, our communication skills are setting us up for what we have right now, has set us up for what we have right now, which is why I believe NLP is more necessary than ever before. And so this resurgence of making NLP cool again, which we spoke about the other day, like, I think there's a modern version of it. Like, for me, if I was to extract anything out of NLP and leave others, hierarchy of ideas for imagination, for the ability to have discernment or to create, meta model, Milton model, basically to know when people are fucking you over, perceptual positions, and at times anchoring, to understand how it's happening for you, to you, and also how to create positive anchors if that's necessary to change behaviours. They're like the main things I would take out of NLP. Primary rep systems I use, but I also believe that they're linked to your intuition. But there's a lot of other things that I wouldn't teach.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think my view of the primary place NLP falls down is the lack of follow through on modeling what works based on current times.
Montessori had the same problem.
Yes, it is spoken about, but that principle makes a big shift if followed through, and there's still a lot of the things that you mentioned in NLP which are useful in certain contexts, which are less valuable in this day and age. I love Christopher M. Batch, The Living Classroom. If you're a facilitator or a teacher, that is the number one book I'd recommend for them. And he says that however you teach something, if you teach it in the same way in the future, the collective consciousness has evolved beyond that. That means that if your teachings aren't evolving every single time that you do it, then it will be less received each time that you teach it in that way. And what that really then does is it allows us to be able to evolve how we're teaching the things, so they actually evolve into what the current consciousness is. Because when there's so much stimulus and the doubling of technology is going through, I can't remember what it's called, where the technology doubles, but the time that takes to double is getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Mm-hmm. So it just means that we move faster than ever before, but then we don't evolve the things that we teach, whether we're looking at the education paradigm for children or where we're looking at the coaching paradigm for coaches. That evolution is what's required for us, and the things that that we can start to open up by creating those shifts, and especially in NLP, makes it, I don't know if it's cool again. I think it's probably cool. I think it could be cooler. NLP would be cooler if nervous system was in everything. If consent was a core teaching, and the understanding of the impact of shame was beyond timeline therapying it.
Agreed.
That would be the 10 times cooler version than it has ever been. And I think the one thing that's not fully fleshed out is the modeling. It's like, it's a core principle, but what's the expression of that? And that's why it has so much potential even still, even though there are people that are butchering it and utilizing it in NLP terms in ecological ways. But it still has that great potential.
Awesome. And to wrap up the conversation, what would you say to somebody listening that we haven't spoken about? What is something that you want to say that we haven't said?
There's a piece there before. It's like the first piece is, notice what's different. The second piece added to that is small things make a big difference. Like changing from industry to another word makes a big difference. But most people are too focused on the grandiose actions. You look at personal development, it's like, I need to have the tears, I need to have the big cathartic process to be able to get my personal development hit. And yet the smallest things are often the things that create the biggest difference over a period of time, because it creates an entirely different trajectory by focusing on that. And the greatest metaphor of that is like the sliding door moments. I remember I was thinking about moving to the Gold Coast or Sunshine Coast at the end of this relationship, and I didn't want to move to the Gold Coast because that's where my former partner, who just dumped me, that broke my heart, that bitch. That's where she lived.
He's totally healed on that.
by the way. That was my old paradigm. Many holographic processes later, and we're good until the next layer of next thing scheduled to be loved comes up in that. I'm standing in the kitchen, cooking the like roast pumpkin and potato in the oven, and then my housemate at the time goes, because I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna move. Like, I'm gonna change all my life. I'm gonna move Sunny Coast, Gold Coast. I'm just working out between those two, and I'm leaning towards Sunny Coast. And I'm leaning towards Sunny Coast because I'm like, well, she's down there, so I could run into her. And I don't want to have to go through the pain and suffering of that, have my heart ripped out again. Anyway. And he goes, mate, Gold Coast is a big place. And I'm like, that's true, isn't it? So I'm still quite hurt at the time. So I end up moving to the Gold Coast, but I message her and say, so I've moved to the Gold Coast. You can't ever go below Burleigh.
So mature.
Yeah, so mature at the time, totally. Can't ever go below Burleigh. And, you fast forward a few years and my entire business, my entire life, my partner, my kids, all of those things would never have happened if I had have moved to the Sunny Coast. I wouldn't do holographics. I wouldn't have the partner that I have. I wouldn't have the kids that I have. I wouldn't have the business that I have. I wouldn't have the house that I have. And that tiny little single sentence that he said to me that day allowed me to recognize, not at the time, not for years and years and years later, that the tiny, small little thing can make a huge difference. A single sentence from the right person at the right time can change someone's entire trajectory. That's why it becomes critical, very important to be conscious of what you say to people and the words that you utilize, because that can create a huge, entirely different world and experience for them. And that comes from something small, like a word, that creates an entirely different world. And I think that's the one thing that was like there for me during this conversation.
Awesome. Well, you can leave your hat on or not. You can choose.
Do I take it off? Is it this metaphorical dramatical demonstration?
Yeah.
Maybe I've got to put it in the foreground there so that people can see it.
This is the hat. We shall see what occurs with it. Thank you so much for being here today and for jumping on the podcast. I always love having conversations with you, especially when it is in a small setting. So
yes, I love our conversations too. The
conservations.
Conservations, yes. Conversations, yeah. It's good to be able to have conversations with people that expand your awareness. And that's one of the things I love about you and coaching you. We have those conversations that other people struggle to meet both of us in. So thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.